Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, where's my hat?
Hello.
Where's my hat? Are you ready to show the video?
We'll do that later.
Now, we're going to talk about this eagles were a deliberate secret plan of Gandalf.
You've got to catch me up on this
Hi, everybody.
controversy because I don't.
It's not
really
a controversy until I say it's a controversy. Actually, it's a popular meme. It was prepared. I'll show it to you on my phone, or I'll show it to you on the iPad.
Just show it to me. Yeah, just pull it up.
It was sent around a week and a half ago.
Okay.
And this is something we're going to talk about here at the beginning of our weekly webcast, Torn Tuesday. Welcome, everybody. This is TheOneRing.net. Here we are, TheOneRing.net. We are the one-stop shop for the worldwide community of Tolkien fans. You want to find out about The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, or the films that Peter Jackson is making, and all the activities worldwide that fans are interested in, this is the website to be, and this is the show for you. My name's Clifford Broadway.
I'm Justin.
And this is Justin over here. We have really complimentary, although sometimes opposing, viewpoints.
Him.
We have complimentary but opposing viewpoints on fandom and comic book fandom, science fiction, fantasy, speculative fiction.
I like movies.
And I love
like
storytelling.
Why are we
really
talking so loud?
I don't know why. The microphone works just fine, doesn't it? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's nice to see you.
Hello, Jeffrey Lindsay, in the chat room.
Oh, look, it's Jeffrey. Hey, Jeffrey Lindsay, great guy.
We're playing with new toys. We're playing with different video stuff, so it might look weird, but we're just trying new things because we can, because we like to innovate or something like that. Anyway, my name's Justin, and I am a Hobbit fan of the movies because I haven't read the book, and I really like what Peter Jackson's doing with the films, but I totally see what he's up to because I come from Star Wars fandom where George Lucas kind of went more tech at the sacrificing story for technology, and I feel like Peter Jackson did that on the first two films. So but if you're just joining us, we're live at TheOneRing.net/live. We're also on Ustream. You can watch us on mobile, on your Droid, on your iPhone, on your iPad. Get the Ustream app and just search for The One Ring Net, all one word, and it'll show that we're live.
Yes, indeed. This was a thing called Mind Blown. This was the meme.
Let me see.
This was developed from a Reddit post that was online a year ago. Believe it or not.
Okay.
It came onto Reddit as a long discussion on Reddit 1 year ago. After that, somebody decided to condense the thoughts on that Reddit thread and posted it with, condensing the thoughts and adding in maps, bullet points, and a couple of pictures.
So what's the controversy?
The controversy is this guy just changed the way that we see The Lord of the Rings. Okay? That is the alleged
BuzzFeed headline if I've ever heard of it.
That's the alleged bait-click
18 reasons that we think The Lord of the Rings is different. Whatever.
This is from a year-old post on Reddit. I think that the idea is bogus, and I'm about to explain why, because I went researching through the actual letters of J.R.R. Tolkien.
What's the controversy? I still don't know.
Well, it's going to take a little bit to explain.
Oh my gosh.
Let me see if I can break it down for you.
Truncate that into something that...
You want to truncate it even further?
140 characters. Yeah, what would you tweet? How would you tweet this?
Gandalf had a secret plan to use the eagles all along. Period.
Boom. Okay. All right, what's the answer?
That's not 140 characters. The next sentence is, it didn't quite work out. Period. That's the whole idea.
Okay.
Okay? Would you like further details, my friends? Let's talk about the nitty-gritty, because this is antithetical to Professor Tolkien's judgment. It's antithetical to his plans, and it's not what he wrote. However, it's been put forth as the new truth, and everyone's like, oh, mind blown. This guy just blew our minds, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, while he's talking to you, I'm just going to answer your text messages at 530-64-FRODO. 530-64-FRODO. That's right. 4 Frodo is our phone number. So text me, and I'll answer you. And I'll let Cliff talk for 10 minutes.
I think that everyone knows the eagle plot hole in The Lord of the Rings. Why didn't they just get the eagles to fly them all the way from Rivendell straight on to Mount Doom? You know, this is like the conversation.
Okay.
So, do you have an opinion on this? Like, that there's this obvious, you know, thing that they use in the story. When they need to be rescued off the side of a volcano, they bring the eagles in. Or rescued off the side of a mountain when goblins and wargs are trying to get them. They bring the eagles in. So why don't they just fly all the way instead of walking for a year?
That's been the joke for 50 years.
It has been the joke, right?
Or 75 years.
So some clever guy on Reddit thought that he had an answer to that. And he says Gandalf planned on using the eagles deliberately, and he did it without telling anyone. He didn't tell Frodo or Aragorn, or he didn't tell Galadriel or anybody that he had a secret plan to use the eagles, because allegedly, if it were discovered, the secret plan would jeopardize everybody, and it would make things a lot worse. This is the logic that's put forward on this meme. It became a big old meme that everybody tagged me with, as if I was supposed to know something about it. Hello, Hobbit fan. Welcome to the show.
You are a Tolkien scholar, and you're a published author about Tolkien, and you've written and produced a award-winning documentary. You're kind of an expert.
When Gandalf talks to the little moth in the movie and sends the moth to go get the eagle, Eagle comes and rescues him from the top of the Tower of Isengard, right? Now,
we just got a text message saying, I don't know if I can watch this. It makes me so mad. The Eagles theory is so very wrong.
The Eagles? Well,
Thank you for that text.
Thank you. Well, the theory, let's put forth the theory. Here it says, when Gandalf escapes on the eagle, he doesn't go directly to Rivendell to meet the hobbits. He first goes to meet the great eagles where they live.
This theory sounds stupid. Keep texting me.
Keep bringing the text, guys. But you guys have probably seen this online, and we would love to know your responses. Here you go. He goes to greet the giant eagles, and he says, we know that from The Hobbit that the eagles live in their eyrie and the northern parts of the Misty Mountains on the eastern slopes. This is where it becomes a distinct theory. It's like all about getting the Fellowship to the eastern slopes. So throughout the journey of the Fellowship, Gandalf is still keeping the whole thing secret, that he plans on meeting a bunch of eagles once they get to the eastern side of. So they decide not to go all the way down to the Gap of Rohan, near Isengard. They decide that they can't go over the snow-capped mountains of Carathras because Saruman is sending snowstorms and blocks their way across the pass over, right? So, ultimately, as we know, they decide, against Gandalf's better judgment, that they're going to go through Moria. This is the real part of the story.
Ring bearer decide.
This is the real part of the actual story, right? But then it becomes bogus after this point. This plan is only a plan that has any reasonable chance of success as long as Gandalf keeps it secret. Gandalf and the eagles agree, according to this theory, that we're going to keep the plan very secret from everyone, okay? Gandalf cannot risk losing this advantage, so he tells no one when they arrive at Rivendell. Do you see how silly it gets?
Okay.
And then it goes to the ultimate end where there are 4 main routes across the Misty Mountains. The High Pass that they use in The Hobbit.
Okay.
The Redhorn Pass that they fail to get across because of Saruman sending storms. Then there's Moria, which they ultimately have to go through, and the Gap of Rohan, which they know is too close to Isengard, and they know Saruman is a traitor. So, blah, 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 and they know that there are orcs everywhere, and they can only get over to the eastern side of the mountains. Lovely, isn't it? The Dragonology book. Now, so the only thing is Gandalf meets the Balrog while they're on the way through Moria, right. And when Gandalf is about to die, he's trying to make a last desperate attempt to explain to the Fellowship, you've got to get to the eagles. And you know what he ends up saying before he dies? Fly, you fools.
Are you kidding? No.
That's how he supports the theory, is by Gandalf saying, fly, you fools, as if that's the point, to give them the advice that they need to know. You should go find the eagles and go fly the rest of the way there.
That whole
so
diatribe was to justify the fly you fools as a literal translation.
Hoping at least one of the Fellowship will understand what he really means, but they don't. And thanks for reading. That's the end of it. So, this has appeared 2 weeks ago. It has become, even though it's a stale old Reddit post from over a year ago, it's become the talk of the town, and I can't get people to stop retagging me on my timeline about it. And I'm like, no, guys, no, look. here's what the real author, his name, remember his name? J.R.R. Tolkien? Anybody remember the author? Well, how about that?
202 says they should have called the doctor and asked him to give them a lift to the mountain.
Yeah, on this TARDIS. No.
The Eagles are shell-shocked from every other battle they were involved in. No more.
Listen to this. This is what Professor Tolkien has to say in a letter that he wrote to Forrest J. Ackerman, who's the original publisher of Famous Monsters of
Uncle
Filmland.
Forey.
Uncle Forey.
And you know who's the editor of Famous Monsters right now?
I was just talking to her, yes. That's why I was showing her this letter. I was downstairs right before the show began, and I was talking to one of the editors of Famous Monsters of Filmland, which is the coolest magazine we've been reading since we were kids. You guys pick up a copy, it's so brilliant, even after all these years. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, look, it's a letter to Uncle Forey. And you know what Tolkien says? He says, the Eagles are a dangerous machine. Like Deus Ex Machina, you know? Like using them as a literary device to get out of a pickle, which is the only time he used them sparingly. And this is what Tolkien says.
Okay.
I have used the Eagles sparingly, and that is the absolute limit of their credibility or usefulness. If he had used them anymore, he would have no credibility as a storyteller, and his entire construct of this mythology would be bogus. He further says, in more of his letters, he's interested in the eagles representing one of the gods from Valinor. There are gods and goddesses, or these angelic powers. They are the Valar. The Valar, you'll read about them in the Silmarillion.
Okay.
You've read them in the Silmarillion, guys. You know who these are. We're talking Yavanna, who is, you know, in charge of the stars, the flowers, the plants. There's gods and goddesses like Ulmo, the Lord of the Waters and the oceans. And Yavanna, I think she's in the goddess of the trees and the plants and the birds and animals, and that's why Radagast is a Maiar spirit, underneath Yavanna. And there's Manwë, who's the Lord from the top of his place in Valinor, and he sends his eagles out as emissaries of his will.
The ring would have been too heavy to carry on an eagle's back like it was around Frodo's neck.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea of using the eagles like that to just fly all the way to Mount Doom is something that Professor Tolkien said was going to be complete contradiction to what he was trying to write.
If they rode on the eagle, it wouldn't be an interesting adventure.
That's true. That's true.
I still don't understand why you say it would contradict anything.
Me?
Yeah, so tell me again. Sell me on this idea that the eagles are not appropriate travel.
The eagles were meant to be a symbol of the presence of one of the deities from Valinor. And they had, like in Star Trek, they had a non-interference policy, like the Prime Directive, where they were not going to directly interfere with what was going on with mortals and people in Middle-earth.
But the elves had that, and the wizards had that, and they broke their own rule. They broke that rule.
No, the wizards, the Istari, they were forbidden from showing direct power for power against the forces of Sauron and against the enemy himself.
And the
Gandalf was sent to be a support system to strengthen the hearts and the spirits of men in their efforts against the enemy. That was the point. So when the eagles show up, and they scarcely do in these books, they are a direct manifestation of Manwë, the power of the Valar. Do you guys get that? Do you guys get that?
No.
As long as you get that.
No, I don't. What's the power? What's the power? What is everyone so scared about using the eagles for?
What is the power? The power that you're talking about, without getting too weird into metaphysics, we're talking about We're talking about the difference between the seen and the unseen worlds. In Professor Tolkien's mythology, those words have a capital S and a capital U. The unseen is an entire existence of metaphysical powers that are tied to the stories. They're connected, but they are removed. They're removed from the world.
So what is their power?
Well, like gods of Mount Olympus, like Adonis, like
so they just,
Zeus,
like they just didn't want to meddle. Like they just didn't want to meddle.
Like
even though they meddle at the end of both books, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, they meddle with both books.
Like Athena and Zeus and other goddesses.
I don't buy this. They're not allowed to meddle at the beginning of the story, but they're allowed to meddle at the end.
They're not allowed.
Bull.
They weren't meddling.
They were totally meddling.
the definition of meddling is something that we need to clear up. We need to be very, very clear about what we're talking about before we misunderstand any further. Justin, let me just take a second. There's no interference because the challenge of these characters against the forces of evil, against the enemy, are met with the power of will, like Bilbo's will, the force of his will. Aragorn's force of his own will and his willpower to act and be proactive against the enemy is something that Gandalf is supposed to support, but not to interfere with and take over.
I get that. Okay, I get that.
When Frodo and Sam get to the end of their story, when they have gone to the limit of their willpower, then the eagles come in and rescue them off the side of Mount Doom when Orodruin is exploding and molten lava is everywhere, but only after the point where they have where the characters have expended every ounce of their will in their own effort to struggle against the enemy. The eagles are not come in to make it easy for them. The eagles are never there to make it an easy journey for them. They're only there at the end when an imminent rescue is warranted and deserved after Frodo's sacrifice, after he's been scarred and hurt by the ring.
What about the battle at the Black Gate?
The battle at the Black Gate? Where Aragorn and Rohan forces are standing against the Black Gate?
And a bunch of eagles come in and join the battle?
This happens at the moment when the ring is destroyed, when Manwë and the powers of Valinor have seen that the true hearts of men have withstood the challenge, and they have made their own decisions without too much interference from the powers that be. That's when the eagles actually come in.
The whole point of the Council of Elrond was to show the value of, I will take this ring to Mordor, but I do not know the way. Like, they've seen the hearts. That's the challenge right there.
Do you know, one time...
And you're telling me that the eagles don't respect that? They're like, all right, that's cool. That's cool and all. Good for them.
In The Hobbit, the eagles appear to help Gandalf and Thorin and the dwarves of Thorin's company.
Spoiler.
Because Gwaihir, the Wind Lord, owed a big personal favor to Gandalf. You know, the little mouse that takes the thorn out of the lion's paw. Remember Aesop's fable? And then later on, that lion helps the mouse later on when the mouse needs a favor. So Gandalf did a favor for Gwaihir, the Wind Lord, and Gwaihir returned the favor by rescuing Thorin and company and Gandalf during the out of the frying pan into the fire bit in The Hobbit. So, again, Professor Tolkien is being very, very judicious, very careful in not overusing these eagles. The idea that somebody on Reddit, the idea that some guy on Reddit thinks that he knows better than Tolkien's mind is what pisses me off. Because nobody knows Tolkien better than Tolkien. And if you guys want to know what the author really thinks, then you should read the letters of Tolkien.
Fashina in the chat room says, last time the Valar interfered, they changed the shape of the world.
Yes. The last time the Valar interfered too much, they actually altered way too much the fabric of history and the structure of the earth, and they decided to remove themselves. So Valinor used to be like right across the oceans, literally. But then they decided to pull themselves out and just not even be involved in the mess that's going on in the physical world. And so when the elves leave from, the last few ships that are leaving from the Grey Havens, those elves leave, and the water that they go on is not just the ocean. They actually go further than the ocean, and they go beyond the veils of the world, from the world of the seen, capital S, to the unseen, capital U. And I mean that it's a proper noun. In Tolkien's mythology, it's a proper noun. It's a specific metaphysical state of being where they leave one world and go to another manifestation where the Valar in Valinor, this place in Valinor, has removed itself from the circle of the world where everyone else physically lives. And that's part of the speech that you hear Gandalf giving to Pippin in Minas Tirith. He's like, the grey rain curtain lifts, and you see nothing but sunrise on a far green country. That's Gandalf's dialogue talking about finding Valinor beyond the circles of the world. So we're talking a lot of stuff about Silmarillion stuff. That's why the eagles are where they are. They're emissaries of Manwë. He is one of the greatest of the Valar, and he's watching everything very carefully, but he's trying not to get involved. No, okay. So now we've disputed the whole meme. I'm done.
Yeah, but I'm not, because you just got done saying
Hi,
that
everybody.
Eagles
as well.
don't want to help, don't want to be involved, don't want to influence. But there are three instances in Middle-earth tales in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. They rescue the dwarves from a flaming tree on the edge of a cliff. They rescue a bunch of people at the end of The Hobbit during the Battle of Five Armies when they're battling giant bats. And then they rescue Aragorn at the Black Gate, and then they rescue Frodo and Sam. There's four.
That's not a separate instance. The Eagles arriving with.
So why is it okay?
The Eagles arriving at the Morannon at the Black Gate of Mordor is not a separate instance from them arriving to help Frodo and Sam on the mountainside of Mount Doom.
That's four instances.
That's the same moment
of the Eagles helping. Why couldn't they just help earlier?
I just explained all that. I just explained why they're not there to interfere earlier when the hearts of men have not been tested.
So selfish.
No, it's not.
So selfish. What do you mean to test it? Like, I gotta die before you help? That's the worst.
Well, even in ancient Greek mythology, Zeus forbade the other gods and goddesses of Olympus from interfering with Theseus and his journey and the other things happening in these Hellenic stories. But he broke his own rule, and Zeus would show up disguised on Earth as an old beggar, and he would walk around giving advice and teaching Theseus and stuff like that. You know, the gods and the goddesses in these mythological stories, they're always, what you'd call precocious. They're always changing their little plans and their little minds, and they say one thing and do another. They're contrary. The gods are contrary. They've been that way in all of mythology. Why does it surprise you that they're that way in Tolkien's mythology? Hey, how you doing?
So
right. Thanks for asking.
53064 Frodo is the hotline. You can call or text. I just want to know, would the Eagles defeat Smaug?
When the Eagles,
what would that battle look like?
The Eagles arriving at the Battle of the Five Armies is a pretty specific. Oh, okay. What? Am I in the way?
No, you're good.
When the Eagles arrive at the Battle of the Five Armies, there's a whole lot at stake, and
but the dragon's already dead.
The dragon is already dead.
So
yes.
Would the Eagles stand a chance against Smaug?
Good question.
Or would Smaug not stand a chance against the Manwë or whatever the Valar Aragorn thing of doodles? No, not Aragorn. That's the question. How powerful are these things?
How powerful are they? Like I just read from this letter, I have used the Eagles sparingly, and that is the absolute limit of their credibility and usefulness.
If the Eagle tried to fight Smaug, they'd be like roast chicken.
Funny.
Aruvandi, calling it from the chat room.
Ah.
We're going to call on the hotline.
We've got a call on the hotline. Hello, let's see. Hello, thanks for calling Torn Tuesday.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, who's calling? Where are you calling from?
This is Griffin Call.
Hi, where are you calling from?
Hey, welcome to the show.
Yeah, this is weird. I'm sorry. Justin.
Are you hearing yourself on the show? This is your first time calling, right?
Yes. This is actually among my first times watching.
Excellent.
Oh, great.
Hi.
Great. Welcome to the show.
Justin, to answer your question, it depends on whether or not the Eagles could defeat Smaug. I think it depends on whether or not they would be able to be quicker than Smaug, whether or not they could, and I probably not. Or if they would be able to get close enough to him, because it says his wings are like a hurricane, and I probably sound really
So you're saying that they couldn't even get close to Smaug?
Yes.
What, you think the dragon would roast him first, or his wingspan was just too big that they just?
he would either roast them or just knock them out of the sky.
He was that big? Could he just chomp them? Just like, you know, boom, done? Two swallows?
I don't think he would have been able to get close enough to them because even though they were... I think they would be too fast for him to actually eat them, but definitely roasting is a complete possibility.
Yeah. You know, that makes sense. I think that would be a pretty epic battle. I think they would only win through numbers.
Maybe. I mean, you could ask the same question. What if Tom Bombadil showed up, you know, at Erebor and was face to face with Smaug? I mean, he was the guy who was impervious to the power of the ring. He put it on, and he wouldn't turn invisible. He didn't even care about the ring. We have so many odd questions when we want to mix and match these odd variables in Tolkien's world. What would happen if any of the eagles were face to face with the dragon? It's kind of funny that the eagles never ever appear in that kind of a conflict with any of the great beasts or the dragons. And I think that Peter Jackson took some liberty in showing the eagles swooping down and attacking the Nazgul, you know. But I think that did kind of happen in the books too. But what do you think? Do you really think that the last dragon, Smaug, would have stood his ground against a whole bunch of eagles? This would be very interesting to watch. I wonder.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't really...
Well, I appreciate your input. I think you're absolutely right. I just have one more question before we let you go. Do the great eagles taste like turkey or chicken?
Chicken.
I agree. All right, thanks for calling. We're going to open up the hotline to a few more people that want to call in. Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
So, you know, I think, I'm still torn about this whole eagle thing. Like, it feels like a cop-out. Like, oh, they're so powerful that they choose not to help. Like, you know, if it just feels like if you know people are going to suffer, which everyone knows, you know, walking into Mordor, one does not just walk into Mordor. There's everything there. Everyone knows that. All right, the eagles do. So if you know that people are going to go through some pain and horrors and deaths before you step in, that's beyond tough love.
Listen to this. This is a passage that Tolkien writes in a letter where he's explaining to his publisher what's going on with this structure and the story of his world, and he's it's a really long letter, and he is explaining everything about why he's writing these stories the way that he does. And here it is. This is a conversation about the limitations of the power of the wizards. This is further to our conversation about the limitations of using the eagles the way that they're used in the storytelling. This might help clarify some things. Nowhere is the place or the nature of wizards made fully explicit. Tolkien was deliberate about this. Let me tell you why. Reading his own words. Their name, as related to wise, is an Englishing of their elvish name, and is used throughout as utterly distinct from sorcerer or magician. Okay, the word wizard is a different wizard. It's used differently. Istari. Okay? It appears finally that they were, as one might say, the near equivalent in their mode of the tales as angels or guardian angels, basically. Okay? Guardian angels do not show up in any story and do all the dirty work for the hero. Do they? Since when has that ever happened? Since when, in any speculative fiction, have you had a guardian angel?
So the eagles are angels of Middle-earth?
The wizards...
Is that what you're saying?
The wizards and the eagles are under the same...
The wizards are not angels.
The wizards are angels. Yes, they are. They're angelic powers from Valinor. They are Maiar spirits. in the embodiment of old men. But listen to this. I mean, look at Pinocchio. Pinocchio learned things the hard way.
We're going to call on Skype.
Wait a minute on the call. Call back on Skype, Emily. Call back in a few minutes. We're in the middle of this sentence. Emily, you can join the conversation in just a few moments, okay?
Okay.
In Pinocchio, Jiminy Cricket does not do all the dirty work for him. Pinocchio learns things the hard way.
I'm your conscience.
He has a guardian angel in the body of the cricket, but the cricket does not do all the dirty work or suffer all the hardships that Pinocchio has to go through in order to learn the lessons, in order to become a real boy. Get it? It's that simple. It's that simple, okay? Now, when you're talking about wizards as guardian angels, Tolkien further says, it appears finally that they were, as one might say, the near equivalent in these tales as guardian angels. Their powers are directed primarily at the encouragement, okay, of the enemies of evil. The encouragement of Aragorn, the encouragement of Frodo, the encouragement of Bilbo. That's what the wizards are mainly there to do, to encourage the enemies of evil, to cause them to use their own wits and their own valor to unite and to endure against the enemy. Tolkien's own words. That's why the wizards are there. They appear always as old men and sages, and though sent by the powers of the true West, in the world they suffer themselves. Their age and their gray hairs increase only slowly. Gandalf, whose function is especially to watch human affairs, in parenthesis, men and hobbits, goes on through all of the tales. And they're forbidden by the powers of Valinor to use exact power for power against Sauron, and the eagles are no different. I mean, why would you over-abuse, the presence of these powers? If Gandalf used all of his power all the time, then they would have skated through that whole journey, and there wouldn't have been much fun, and there wouldn't have been much of a journey anyways. The ring causes all of its own torture on Frodo's heart, on his spirit, and it corrupts him slowly over the time it takes him to get there, and eventually Frodo fails. He ultimately, technically, fails in his duty, and Gollum is there to save the day and intervene at the last second, and that's because Bilbo's mercy will rule the fate of many. That's why that dialogue is in the film and in the books as well. The pity of Bilbo, that's it. The pity of Bilbo might rule the fate of many. And that's what this is all about. The eagles are not supposed to be abused as, and Tolkien actually says, I couldn't use them anymore.
So who calls the eagles in the Battle of the Five Armies? What's going to happen in the next film? Because we know they battle giant bats.
No one calls the eagles in the Battle of the Five Armies.
So why do they show up?
The eagles are watching everything very carefully because they are, like Odin has his two ravens.
Okay.
They've got names. I forget the names. And even in the Marvel Comics universe, they have the correct, names of the two ravens. Odin uses these birds to spy everything out and watch on Midgard and see what's going on, and then they report back to Odin. Well, the eagles have reported back to Manwë, and when they see armies and legions of goblins and orcs descending upon Erebor to, loot and pillage and take everything for themselves, Manwë decides to intervene. He decides this is the last minute. These individuals have, shown their character and suffered through their hardships, and now we're going to make sure that, this thing doesn't end in a whole pickle. And,
So do you think in Peter Jackson's Battle of the Five Armies that the eagles will come in not just as to fight to ward off the bats, but do you think they're going to come in to wreak havoc on every army and be like, y'all are done?
No, the eagles are going to just do everything they can to help, the good guys and kill
what
the
good
orcs.
guys? Everybody's a bad guy. Everybody's a bad guy in the Battle of the Five Armies.
No. Everybody is against everybody in the Battle of the Five Armies.
Yeah.
Until the goblins show up, and then the other three factions of dwarves, men, and elves who were infighting, they join together to fight the same foe, a common foe.
Yeah, but then they'll just go back to fighting. Do you think the Eagles are going to help that, or they're just going to clean house? What's Peter Jackson doing with the Eagles?
We don't know yet. We'll find out. Other questions have come to me about why don't we see any production diaries yet? And
he gave up on those.
Did he?
Yeah.
He hasn't done one in a long time, has he?
No, not like he did a lot for Unexpected Journey. He did like 2 for Desolation, and he's done none for the Battle of Five Armies.
He's busy in post-production. He's busy editing the film.
He's not the one doing them. It's other people. He's surrounded by thousands of artists. We've talked to all the visual effects supervisors. You know that say they have a team of 2,800 people.
Yeah.
Like Peter Jackson doesn't make diaries. It's another crew that just points the camera at him. So there's no reason that he shouldn't be making diaries unless they just aren't interested. Like whatever they were doing, they're not interested.
Yeah, they're just not interested. Well, they're really popular pieces, and they're very effective marketing pieces. Why wouldn't they do them anymore? Anyway.
I guess they're not interested. We got a call on the hotline.
Yes. Hey, by the way, Emily, you're welcome to call back and be part of, we just had to finish that thought. Or anybody else who wants to join us on Skype.
Yeah. But here's also another thing, I think.
Hi, Emily. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hi, Chris. But could the Eagles really stand the weight of multiple dwarfs on their backs for a whole journey without resting?
Actually, yes. We've done this panel discussion with the dino experts, Dr. Robert Bacher, the big crazy paleontologist with the big white beard. He looks like a wizard. And the Dino Hotel guys at Denver, Best Western Denver, and the Morrison County Museum. So we've done this panel discussion at multiple conventions, and where we talk about the giant birds and eagles that have been discovered in the fossil record, and it's amazing. There actually have been giant eagles, and if you consider that dwarves and hobbits,
those prehistoric birds were huge.
Huge. They're huge to humans, to 6-foot humans. So if you imagine a halfling and a half dwarf that are half the size, you can like some of the actual birds that have been found in this real world in America have been large enough to carry 1, maybe 2 humans. So you can imagine that these giant birds that Tolkien comes up with could easily, based on the fossil record, carry the weight of 2 to 4 hobbits or dwarves. So the answer is yes. These birds could. Say again.
From the Shire all the way to Mountain, though?
Oh, yeah. The thing with birds is that it doesn't matter what weight they have, really. Once they get going, they're drifting on the air. The weight only has to do with the ability to get up into the air. But once they're at elevation and once they're carried on the winds, they can go, they can go to other continents as bird migrations do every single year.
Yes, they do.
So
yes.
It's not an issue of distance. It's just an issue of weight to get up in the air. And time again, not only in the fossil record in the real world, but in Tolkien's world and in Peter Jackson's film world, the eagles can definitely handle the weight, whether they're on top or whether they're below the bird, like in the talons.
One person said in the chat, that if they tried to take the ring all the way to Mordor in the Lord of the Rings, the power of of everything that is the eye and all the stuff, the power would overwhelm them.
Well, according to Cliff, not really.
Say that again? Sorry?
Like, the power of the ring does not affect the eagles.
The power...
Sauron's power.
Sauron's power was directed at the corruption of the earthbound species. Sauron was not interested in anything as much as directing the geopolitical things in the world with men, elves, dwarves. That's what he wanted to do, and he created the whole trick, the trickery of making the magic rings as a grand ruse to start to control all the physical races of Middle Earth, right? But that wouldn't include the eagles. The eagles don't even have fingers upon which they can wear rings.
No, that's false, because in the prologue to Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's film, we do see the ring change shape and change size from a giant ring down to a human hand. So the ring
Yes.
does change size.
It does, but you know, the extension of Sauron's efforts was, if I've got your question correctly, he wasn't even concerned with the Eagles as a race of beings that he sought to submit to his control. It's quite possible that some of the Eagles maybe were captured by Morgoth in the early days of the First Age, and they may have been tortured and corrupted the way that elves were, and they may have been turned into horrible beasts or other things that are similar to the, you know, the wyvern beasts that the Nazgul are riding in the
Rocket
Third
Hobbit
Age.
asks, can the Eagles get transfixed by the One Ring?
I know. I think that you're talking about the difference between humanoids and animals. Any humanoid could be corrupted by the power of the ring, but no animals could. I guess.
But although you're saying that they could carry the dwarves from all the way on their back,
Yes.
I don't think it necessarily be fair to make someone do that.
Fairness has no bearing on any of these stories. It's not fair that 14 people crash Beorn's house unannounced. Like,
Not being fair. Keep it like being fair.
That's funny.
It's not fair that 13 people crashed Bilbo's house and ate all his food, and they're like, "You got nothing else to do, bro. Just come with us." So fairness never is an issue here. But to answer your question, the answer is absolutely yes. The Eagles could physically handle the journey and the weight, and according to Cliff, the power of the One Ring. So it was just they just chose not to, which is kind of a punk move.
Yeah, kind of. Well,
If I was a giant eagle, I wouldn't carry someone all the way.
See, you're then you're worse than the Eagles. You're a tease, because then you'd be like, "Hey, I'll help you, bro, but only halfway." Ha!
Yeah, but they've surely got their life to deal with as well.
They're Eagles. What do they got to do? Lay eggs and pick up sticks? Come on.
There's a bit more to bird life than that.
I'll see it when I believe it. Well, thanks for calling, Emily. We always appreciate your phone calls in.
yeah, it's great to have you on the show.
We're getting another call on Cliff's line.
Thanks,
so.
Emily. Well, all right.
Hi,
Hello.
who's calling? Where are you
Hello.
calling from?
Hey, this is Smog from the staff room. I'm calling from International Falls, Minnesota.
Hey, Minnesota?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Welcome aboard. Nice to have you on the show today. Very
Howdy.
good. Well, I'm gonna let you hold this, Justin. I'm looking up something. I'm still looking up passages from what Professor Tolkien has said about eagles and the interference of the powers of Valinor. But go ahead. What's your question?
There's been one. It really doesn't relate to the story talk, but there's been one serious question that I've been debating over and over. When the dwarves actually make it to Bag End in the beginning of The Hobbit, it sounds like that they go to Bag End to get Bilbo, but they don't have a way to get into the mountain. It's only really at the table that Gandalf shows them the ring. That, there is a way inside, because I thought they said, there's no way to get into the mountain. So my question is, why would they have this big meeting and then start the journey if they knew at that time that there was no way to get into the mountain?
Because at the beginning of Desolation of Smaug, in the flashback, Gandalf just tells him, "Hey, you got to get everybody together, bro."
So I would think like the other dwarves, that they would have no idea, because it sounds like at least some of the main ones had no idea that they could even get into the mountain. So But was that something like, Gandalf and them were saying, trust us, just go to the meeting and something's going to happen?
Yes, and the best comparison I can give you is think of all these wildcatters out in South Dakota, Montana, stuff like that right now, West Texas. There are tens of thousands of guys out there, that are driving and flying out to the middle of the plains on a hope and a dream, because someone somewhere in some random bar said, hey man, you should go up, there's oil and fracking out there in South Dakota. And so a lot of these guys are just going up there without any training or job experience, but they heard that there's work to be had, and once they get there, sure enough, there's work. But that's kind of how I feel about this ragtag group of dwarves called the Company of Dwarves, is that basically they're wildcatters. They're the guys that even Gandalf was like, this is the best you could do. And Thorin's like, yeah, this is I guess this is what Thorin's like, this is, I guess this is what we're working with. But yeah, they're basically wildcatters, that are saying, hey, if we go drill a hole in this mountain, we might be able to find some gold, not black gold, but real gold. So
Yeah.
so that's kind of how it is, and to that end, it's totally believable.
Right. And then I had just one last question for you. On the original Unexpected Journey posters of Lady Galadriel, she's holding, it looks like the light of Erendil in her hand, in her right hand.
Yeah, the file.
So if that play at all during the battle that we're going to see in the next movie?
I wonder. This has been a big question that I've, never have found an answer for. We might as well speculate on it now. I'm glad you brought it up. In the early posters for An Unexpected Journey, there were character posters for every single character, 13 dwarves, and all these supporting characters. Everybody got their own poster. Even Gollum, Galadriel, Radagast, they all got their own posters. And there she is, holding the very familiar glass file of Galadriel. Why would they put that element into the marketing if it's not in the movies at all? And I think it might be, my first instinct is they're just trying to tie it back into Lord of the Rings fans so they can look at that and go, oh, that's cool, it's just like Lord of the Rings. And it may not ever have a presence in the movie. But now you've got an idea brewing in my head. What if she uses it as some kind of a useful, interesting weapon when she arrives at the Battle of Dol Guldur? Pretty cool. That would be interesting, but it would be a total invention of the screenwriters if they use it that way when we see the film. So, interesting.
That's a good question.
Good question.
I think I want to put that to the rest of the staff at the One Ring, and maybe we can come up with an article, looking at those old posters and seeing what's going on. But that's a really good question.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Say that again.
Well, all right,
cool.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for calling.
That was a very good question.
Someone in the chat room said the other dwarves came because of their loyalty to their kin and their king, and I disagree. These are a bunch of wildcatters that are in it for the gold. Show me the gold. That's it. That's all. Really? Yes. Just watch and read.
You think?
Watch and read.
What about the glory of reclaiming their legacy? What about the line of Durin?
What? Okay.
The line of the family pride of dwarves. There's something in that too.
Then on that same token,
in the equation.
Do you think all those guys out in West Texas are going to be like, this is all about energy independence? I'm out here because we're getting off foreign oil. No! All those guys that are wildcatting out in South Dakota, which we drove through, in Montana, they're out there to strike it rich.
Just like Jed Clampett. They want to shoot the ground and get some black gold.
That's exactly what's happening.
Texas tea.
And that's why this ragtag group of things, you can talk, Gandalf. Gandalf is kind of like the CEO of the Company of Dwarves Corporation.
Right.
So he goes on the news, he goes on Fox News and CNN, and he says, this is all about energy independence. We're going to get off, foreign oil. But on the ground, the dwarves are the boots on the ground, the big fat boots on the ground, and they're just in it for the money. So come on, you know. But there's something really interesting about the Light of Elendil. You know, one of the things that we might see in this third Battle of Five Armies is Galadriel and her vial. We have to show I think they're going to have to show how the Eye of Sauron gets trapped on the Tower of Barad-dûr.
Gets trapped.
Is he on Orthanc? He's not Orthanc. It's Barad-dûr, right?
Orthanc is Saruman's tower.
Yeah. So yeah.
And in Isengard.
Isengard.
Okay, not to be
Isengard
confused.
and Orthanc are the same thing.
Isengard is the whole physical place. Orthanc is only the tower within the circle of Isengard.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So Barad-dûr, the Eye of Sauron is stuck. It's stuck atop Barad-dûr, whereas right now it's in.
The eye is not ever stuck. The eye just moves there as a place.
No, wait. No.
To be. What?
It's totally stuck.
Are you proposing a theory? Because I don't.
Totally
I'm about to shoot that theory down.
Okay, go ahead. Go.
Well, no.
I think
finish your thought. I want to understand you. Finish your thought. I want to get this.
Okay, right now the eye is in. Where are they at right now?
The eye is in Dol Guldur.
Oh, Dol Guldur. Oh, we're getting a Skype call from Helen.
Ooh, we get more Skype calls. This is very nice. Oh, look, it's a hamster. Hi, Helen.
We're getting a call from a hamster. Hello.
Hey, Mr. Hey, hamster.
Okay, go ahead. I finish your thought.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello? Sorry, I think I've got a delay on my thing. You were mentioning all the dwarves being just a ragtag bunch of dwarves.
Yes.
10 of them are actually Durin's line. There's only 3 that aren't. So, all of them have got something to gain from getting Erebor back.
Right. So you know, there's so many comments in the movies and books, you know, that you know, kind of like this is all we could come up with. So do you think that, you know, they're in it for the, you know, for the, you know, to reclaim their name? Or do you think this is really just kind of a selfish, like, hey, I want to be a prince and I want to get wealthy?
I think it's to reclaim the name, and I think if they have been pushed out everywhere and they're all over the place, then they do need a home for themselves. So, I think it's a bit both.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure, you know, all the multiple reasons always come into every big decision that anybody makes, but you know, we already know, you know, Tolkien does a great job of kind of constantly reminding you, you know, what the race of dwarves were known for. You know, they just, you know, they dug too deep. You know, they're just they kind of have a one-track mind of,
yeah, they're gold and gems and.
Yeah, they just want to collect and amass, you know, stuff and wealth. And not just wealth, but like trading wealth and things like that. So this idea that you know, the main reason that the company exists is altruistic reasons of, you know, this is for our kin and our homeland. I think, yeah, you know, from a big picture perspective, sure, yeah. But one to one.
So you're trying to bring it down from no, altruism was never on the table. When it comes to dwarves, that word doesn't even play. Let's just be honest. Like, Helen, I think what we're trying to get at is my definition of motivation for Thorin and company, and why they even wanted to go on the journey in the first place, is it's a mix of things, including wanting to reclaim the dignity of their house, and of course all that left unguarded treasure, which could represent a whole different life for them than what they're living with in the Blue Mountains, where they don't find any gold or riches. They're just eking out a living, you know.
And they're off to TheOneRing as well.
Yes, and there is the unanswered question of what happened to TheOneRing. You know, it is something that Tolkien tells us was lost when Thrain was captured and held in Dol Guldur. But nobody in the current narrative of the Hobbit movies realizes this yet. It hasn't even been shown yet.
No, the only one who might have an idea is Gandalf, but
Yep.
it depends what they've changed.
Yes.
Because, to be honest, I don't... With all the changes, I'm getting all... Yeah.
Yeah.
I mind quite a bit. That if you're looking at it now, it's a case of what's happened, well, because they've changed... Like, Gandalf finding Saruman was meant to be before this journey, and... Sauron, sorry, was meant to be before this, and the journey, and that they put that into the journey timeline, so... It's getting a bit... trying to figure out what's when.
Yeah. Well, you know, the one thing that Peter Jackson's really good at is wrapping up all the storylines, as seen with the 8 different endings of Return of the King. Like, so I have a feeling that it's we're gonna see a lot of resolution. Basically, most of this movie is just going to be resolution.
Peter Jackson has described it as an action-packed. What did he call it? What did he call the movie? He says his approach to Battle of the Five Armies is going to be a tense action thriller. That's what he said, and I don't know how far he's going to go with that. I worry a little bit from time to time.
How much of the wrapping up you can do in an hour and 20 minutes when the dragon's still alive?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, didn't we hear a report about the running time? That the
1 to 2 hours 20 minutes.
Yeah, 2 hours and 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be about the same running time, maybe a little minute or two longer than Desolation of Smaug.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
you know, I think you know, there's a lot of considerations. I think a lot of each of the dwarves are there, not just as a line of Durin.
But they want their share.
But you know, they want their share, and this is probably, they probably were really low on the totem pole when it comes to the line of Durin, and
well, there's Thorin, Fili, and Keeley, and generally I think everyone else is on the list that's in Appendix A. Appendix A, so.
But you know how families work. I mean, you know, like you go to a family reunion and suddenly everyone's got 20 cousins, and you know who's next in line to inherit, you know, the throne, or it just, you know, what's interesting is, you know, what Tolkien does not mention, you know, like how big are these families in actuality. And maybe this is an opportunity for some from junior level family line of Durin to kind of step up, and like this is their chance to be a bigger part of the line of Durin. So again, it becomes a selfish quest.
Well, Thorin's pretty senior from the looks of this, because I've got the line, I've got the appendix, the book in front of me at the moment, like Lord of the Rings appendices in front of me. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Well,
yes.
Well, we appreciate your call in, and thanks for watching. Thanks for your input on this topic.
You're welcome.
Yes, indeed.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. That's great to have so many people on the show today. We've got so many calls and Skypes. That's really, really awesome. 53064
Frodo. Also on Skype, TheOneRing Net, all one word. TheOneRing Net, all one word is our Skype, and of course our phone is 53064 Frodo. You know, back to you know. Right now, Dol Guldur, there's a big flaming eye that was just created. So at some point, that flaming eye just gonna grow legs and like walk over to Barad-dûr and climb it like King Kong.
You shouldn't puzzle your brain too much about Sauron and his ability to change shape. When Numenor was destroyed, something you'd read about in the Silmarillion, he was a physical humanoid with 2 legs, 2 arms, and, you know...
Do you think we're going to see that?
And his body was destroyed, even with the ring on him. And when Numenor was destroyed, Sauron went floating over the ocean as a little dark, evil wisp of cloud.
That's right.
With the ring, and he went back and housed himself in Mordor after the great tumult and the destruction of Atlantis, which is actually Numenor in this part of Tolkien's world. And Tolkien wrote a letter about that saying, why would you boggle your mind about that? About, how could Sauron carry the ring if his physical form was destroyed? If he's got his ring, and it's the ultimate Horcrux, as we know, J.K. Rowling borrowed the idea heavily from Tolkien about the idea of making a Horcrux. That's what the ring is, in essence. Why wouldn't his floating black vapor just take it over the ocean waves and all the way back? He could, if he wants to. It's his ring.
So why does he Why does he lock himself up at Barad-dûr? Like
it's safe. It's safe, and Barad-dûr is not completely reconstructed. At the time of the downfall of Dol Guldur, which we're going to see in the Battle of the Five Armies movie, when Sauron gets the crap beaten out of him, and he retreats and he leaves Dol Guldur, especially in the face of the immense power of Galadriel and Gandalf and Saruman and Radagast, all of these Maiar spirits in the form of 3 wizards and a couple of really, really, super-powered elves, especially the Noldor, like she is, like Galadriel is.
Do we think
he's gonna book it and run? He's just gonna cut his losses and retreat and go
as a flame, just go.
We don't know. We don't know how Peter Jackson may yet visualize his ultimate
Ang
retreat,
Lee's Hulk?
but we will see a retreat of Sauron.
Remember Ang Lee's Hulk when Hulk's dad becomes the big cloud thing, and then he carries the Hulk to the middle of the desert.
Yeah, so I remember that.
So if you want something like that, but maybe Galadriel's light. The light of Elendil is what forces it. It's the powerful weapon against the Eye of Sauron, and maybe that's why she gives it to Frodo, because she knows that it's that powerful.
Yes,
she's like, this is the thing. This is the thing that saved us from Sauron before, the Eye of Sauron before. Here you go, Frodo, because I know you're gonna bump into him again. And then he loses it. And then he loses it.
He loses it?
Remember, doesn't he lose it around the spider?
Sam has it. Sam has the file of Galadriel with him. After he uses it in the battle with Shelob, we don't see it again. We don't see the file, but we assume that Sam is still carrying it somewhere on his person. But we don't see it in the movie ever again. How about this, man? I'm so fascinated by this wonderful, wonderful book. It's called The Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. This is an amazing volume and has all of Professor Tolkien's deepest, most personal thoughts about building mythology, worlds, about the creation of these characters, and all of his insights into world politics and his ideas about industrialization and the evil Nazis and all the things that were happening in his life. Such a great book to read The Letters of Tolkien, and it will reveal many things that you guys are asking questions about. Trust me, it will. Now that it's a little bit after 6 o'clock, do we have a little thing to talk about?
Does Frodo ever give the light of Elendil back to Galadriel, or is she long gone by then? No, he rides the boat with her.
I'm sure he gives it back to her.
So he takes the light with him back to the Undying Lands?
Why?
Because he still got it, right?
Well, I don't know for sure. I'd have to go look it up, but it seems kind of sensible that, when Frodo is reunited with Galadriel, that he gives it back to her. I don't think he keeps it. I don't think he keeps it. Anyways, according to this, Galadriel is as old as Shelob, or older. How about that?
She looks a lot better.
Yeah, and Galadriel looks a lot better, but she's just as old or older than Shelob.
Do you think we're going to see more of battle-damaged Thranduil?
Yes, we are.
In this movie?
Yes,
no, not battle-ready. I'm talking battle-damaged. When his face is cut up?
I hope so. I want to see more of his messy scars.
Yeah.
I really, really do. That'd be really interesting.
Right.
So, as it turns out, this is really interesting. Galadriel had, in the Silmarillion, Galadriel took part in she was part of the group of exiled elves who were exiled from Valinor, and she left the Undying Lands, and she came to Middle-earth, and the reason why Galadriel was permitted, at the very end, to go back with Frodo and Bilbo on the last ship, leaving the Grey Havens, was because she resisted the ring that Frodo offered her. This is a whole other story that we'll have to talk about on another day. It's really interesting. I'm very, very interested in the whole Galadriel thing. And we'll talk about that on another show, maybe next week. As it turns out, we're talking about water and water conservation in a day and age when the biggest meme and the biggest viral thing is the Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, fundraising with the Ice Bucket Challenge. Let's just switch gears just a little bit. Since we've been talking for over an hour about the intricacies of Valinor and Manwë and Orome and Yavanna and Ulmo and all the great, lords and ladies of the Valar, since all of that's tied to the Eagles and the Eagles' presence in Middle-earth, very interesting conversation today. I'm afraid we're going to have to switch gears right now, because there's a thing that has been going on, and it involves fundraising for the good people at ALS. That's Lou Gehrig's disease, around the country and around the world.
Roll the tape?
No, don't roll the tape yet. Everybody has been challenged by, posting a viral video. Even Russell Crowe did this recently, and Lady Gaga, and Drake, and Tom Hanks, and Conan O'Brien has done it. Everybody. Can you imagine, Justin, everybody we know in pop culture, all those movie stars, TV stars, and recording artists, Ed Sheeran, yes, the guy who wrote that beautiful song at the end of the Hobbit soundtrack, I See Fire. Ed Sheeran most recently did the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, and on one day, Paladin Bonnie from the TV show The Quest, and we are big fans of The Quest, and we're big supporters of Mark Ordesky and the guys who are doing The Quest TV show. Well, Paladin Bonnie Gordon sent me a notice, and she said, guess what, I'm shooting my video and I'm going to challenge you in it. And I'm like, okay, wow. And then a couple of hours later, my producer, who helped me make the Ringers Lord of the Fans documentary, everybody remember my documentary film that we did called Ringers? Well, a couple of hours after Paladin Bonnie challenged me, Jeff Marcelletta publicly challenged me on Facebook. He was standing on Sunset Boulevard, and he did the whole dump of ice on his head. And I talked to you, Justin. I said, how can we do this when we're in the middle of a severe drought, and California is suffering from the third straight year of a devastating statewide drought, and our water reserves are so low. We don't have anything left in our drinking water reserves. The state of California is in a bad state of panic. How do I conserve water and yet show that I can support ALS Foundation and make a donation for Lou Gehrig's disease? And I figured out a way to do it. So before you roll the tape, I'm going to tell you guys what I did. I got in the shower, and I was taking my shower. I turned on the water. Before the water went from cold to hot water, it was running and running in the bucket, and I used our recycling bucket, for bottles and cans. So I used this clean bucket, and I filled it with ice cubes, and I reclaimed my shower water before it turned hot. It was there, the water was running, and I went and I stood out in the rose garden, and I thought that Samwise Gamgee would be very proud of me for watering all the plants and the roses. Here's the video. Here's my response to the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Beautiful bean footage. I accepted the challenge from Paladin Bonnie Gordon, and Jeff Marcelletta for the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, but because the state of California is in its third year of a serious drought, I decided to recycle my shower. This was the water that went from cold, right starting to get hot, but it was still too cold. So I saved it, and it's right from my shower, and we're going to reclaim and reuse this water for the roses and the gardens. I think Samwise would be very happy about that. So, without further ado, the Ice Bucket Challenge, the ALS Challenge for Clifford Broadway happens now! Oh! 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 Okay, that's nuts. I just did it. I did it. I did it. And now I challenge my brother, Sean Broadway. I challenge my mom, Linda Savado. And I challenge Amelia Lindgren. You guys are now on the challenge. And I'm going to send my donation to ALS in an envelope right now today. Thank you, everybody. Excellent. So, I have accepted the challenge from...
Well, that's pretty good.
Did it play?
Yeah.
It looked kind of choppy from over here. Did it play all right?
I'd wonder.
Hey guys, so that was it. And
So
I challenged my older brother and my mom and my best friend.
So what nobody else is doing is actually showing the donation happen. So show people.
Oh, I actually have a donation in cash in an envelope because I don't have the ability to do it online today.
Why not?
Because I'm doing some jiggery pokery with my bank account right now. So I have.
Oh, you cheater!
No, I didn't cheat.
I'm
no.
not happy. I'm not happy. I'm
Well,
not
you
happy.
should be happy.
I'm not happy.
My donation is well, I'll show it to you right now. I'm going to the post office, which is right down the block from here, right after I leave, and I have my $10 in cash in an envelope going right to our friends at ALS. It's really, really wonderful. And by the way, we got another video that someone who's a fan of ours, and she just challenged everybody on TheOneRing.net to do the whole thing right. All the people who appeared at FantasyCon in Salt Lake City. So every single person on the Torn staff has been tagged with the challenge to do it. And I'm very happy to say that my donation to ALS is in the mail to them, and it's really, really funny because I have to do this old-fashioned, you know, write them a check, which is as good as cash, because it's easier for me to keep my bookkeeping when I take a look at my charitable donations in my checkbook. It's much easier for me that way. And it was very, very funny. Oh, it was choppy video. Sorry for the choppy video. It didn't play back very properly, but I did it. And throw water at Justin, please. Well, we're here in the middle of meltdowns. We're at Meltdown Comics, you know, and we're in the middle of their offices. We can't throw water all over the place. But you know, our friend Chris Hardwick at Nerdist, he just was downstairs doing a whole special thing with a green screen and a lot of backup people on his team. It was really very funny, and we saw him do the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. The idea here was just to do a more water conservation minded approach. I didn't waste any water, and it was right back to the garden for the water that I had from my shower. And we have to do these things here in California because it's really, really bad. If you've been looking at the Silver Lake Reservoir, the reservoir is down to almost 1/5 the level of the lake because we've drained it all, using it for water. So I think it's a pretty fun idea, and I'm really glad to be challenged by people, and it's nice to be part of it. And I'm really glad that I did it in a more environmentally conscious way, which I'm sure that Tolkien fans, and especially fans of Samwise Gamgee, would appreciate. And there you go. There's another extra message hidden in the message. While we support ALS, we're also trying to be mindful of the drought. So, anyways, Justin, are you coming back over here to... You're not coming back over?
Joining us.
Well, you guys, there it is. I'm going to post the full video on Facebook now that we've shown it on the show, and everybody can see it on my Facebook timeline. Thank you for being part of our show here at TheOneRing.net. Justin is off stage, but he says good night and thank you very much.